Hello everyone, this is Tractane, and this is my tutorial for doing transmission lines using the new painted beams within Satisfactory Update 5 in Experimental. This is being recorded on November 18th, so this is with the latest update as where we are at now in Update 5. So here you can see I'm just placing down my initial large concrete columns. Those are being set up on the corner of a 3x3 grid with just standard platforms. I'm really only using the foundations here because I'm doing this in the middle of the ocean and to just keep everything lined up on a grid. So next you'll see I'm using the metal frame pillars and I'm doing those 3 high, then deleting the bottom 2 because we really need the top. And then next I'll go in and grab the painted beam. And starting from the outside corner, snapping to the inside, using the free form, I'll start to create the first legs of our tower. And you'll see as I'm going here that I'll make a few mistakes along the way, and hopefully I'll try to point some of those out, and I sort of keep tweaking the style and the method for building this as I go. And by the end of it, I feel like I'm at sort of the most efficient. But certainly, there is no one right way to do this. So keep that in mind. This is not meant to be prescriptive, the only way to do this type of build. This is meant to sort of give you the tools to go out and experiment and figure out what works best for you. So here you'll see I'm starting to create some of the first horizontal. We'll have to go back to default in order to get that. And then what I like to do is to create sort of an upside down V or chevron or A, however you want to look at it, that just goes from that outside corner to the midpoint of that horizontal beam. So next we'll start on the second row, again similarly starting with our large column sections, just so everything matches up. And then we'll switch over to the small column section. And actually first you'll see here I'm going to drop in a couple of extra details. Just at that middle joint I'm using the larger beam connector just to add a touch more detail. So yeah, then I'll go in with the smaller diameter metal column, delete out the support. And we'll really be using these smaller metal columns for the most part moving forward. So I'm doing one on each corner, and then you'll see I'm adding some into the middle as well, and that's just going to provide our location reference point for another one of these upside down V's. And really the concept behind making one of these transmission towers for me was basically boiled down to looking at photos of them online and then figuring out how I wanted to translate that into the game. And so to me, I noticed that it's basically create the overall form and then try to break that down into triangles. So next we'll go up to the next layer. So you'll see that the first layer was 3 blocks tall, second layer is 2, and now we're going back to 3. And so we're going from the outside corner of that last layer to now the middle point of that column. And we're just going to gradually kind of bring that in each tier we go up, and that will kind of help shape the overall angle of the sides of the tower. It allows us to create some consistency and have some control over how it changes as we move up the tower. So here you see I'm using these cube-shaped beam connectors on the corners. And this is one of these points where I kind of refine the build as I go. So you see there's sort of a hard time getting them to line up perfectly orthogonally. They tend to want to snap to the end of the beams, and I want them to be sort of level top, bottom, and all of the sides, so that way they connect up well with the horizontal beam members. And I find out a better way of doing that later on. So here we go. This is, I believe, the final or second to last. Yeah, I think second to last member. Or sorry, tier. So yeah, you need a lot of steel beams, just even for the framework and the scaffolding. And then obviously for the painted beams. And then for the connectors, you need concrete. So at this point, on the third, fourth, and fifth here, I go away from the upside down V because it just gets a little too tight, and I go more to just a single diagonal cross brace. And then for the final tier here, we'll go back to the large beam, just to step into the center of the tower one last time. So we'll go from the bottom corner, that last tier, to the inside corner of that large box. And you also notice too that I choose to do the diagonal cross beams in sort of opposing directions between layers. So I'm switching the direction that that diagonal member is going between each layer. And then here you see that I figured out a better way of putting down those blocks, and that's actually to put down the horizontal beams first and then to drop the blocks in, and they tend to line up a lot easier that way. So here you'll see me struggle with trying to place this block in the middle, and it might be easier to do that without getting some of these beams set down first. But that block in the middle is going to allow us to build off of for the last couple elements. So at this point, the main body of the tower is done, and we're just going to add in a cap quick. I just went with a simple pyramid shape. But again, this is something that you can customize and make your own. Then from here, I'm going to start on the arms that actually support the cables. So I'm trying to get that lined up with the bottom of that box in the center. And then I'll go out 5. Do the same on the other side. And here's where it'll help to plan out what direction you want all of your towers going in and what side you want the arms on so that it looks right when they're all lined up together. And here you'll just see me placing down another power point so that my hover pack allows me to go up high enough. So we're just bringing these beams out from the topmost outer corner of our tower out to the midpoint at the bottom of that beam that we created. Or sorry, the box truss. And then I'm sort of picking roughly the midpoint of that sort of last chord and bringing that out to the center as well. And this is something that you can play with as well to try to find the right angle. And then you'll see I create that little beam segment at the very end to place a single block right in the center that's orthogonal. And that'll come in handy later. And then just repeating the same thing on the other side. Okay, so from here we can delete most of our scaffolding. And we'll select the regular steel beam, or metal beam rather. I'm going to drag that straight down 9 meters, and to get it to go perfectly vertically, you just set it to the default mode. From there, I'll attach a wall electrical outlet, and then I'm using the square beam connectors turned at a 45-degree angle to create something that looks similar to the insulators that you see on a normal transmission tower. And that beam just really acts as more scaffolding to build off of. So we'll delete that out of the middle on both sides. And that's pretty much it for the transmission tower. At this point, you can paint it, you could continue to add on more limbs, and again, you can make this as tall, as narrow, as wide, as short as you want. You can play with the dimensions and the proportions. This is just what felt right to me at the moment. So back up and take a final look here. And yeah, thank you very much for checking this out.